If you close your eyes and, picture the biggest gathering of snakes in the world, where does your mind go? Probably some steamy jungle, right? Maybe a cave somewhere in Southeast Asia. But what if I told you it happens just outside Winnipeg, Manitoba? And that there are so many of them, you can actually hear this rustling sound of thousands of scales moving over leaves.
It sounds completely backwards, doesn't it?
Hmm.
But it's true. And for this deep dive, we're looking at the Narcisse Snake Dens. We're talking about the red-sided garter snake. And the numbers are just staggering. Up to 75,000 of them, all emerging at once.
It's a genuine biological marvel. And it was even nominated as one of Canada's 7 natural wonders.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it did win. It was up against the Rocky Mountains. But just the fact that a giant pile of snakes can compete with a mountain range.
That tells you everything about the scale, and really it frames the whole survival game they're playing. They come out of this long winter starving with 2 things on their mind.
Sex and snacks.
Pretty much. And solving those 2 problems dictates everything that happens next.
Okay, so let's unpack that. First, how on earth do they even survive a Manitoba winter? I mean, we see garter snakes all over North America, from way up north down to the deserts. They're adaptable. But this is different. This is a lethal kind of cold.
It is. The soil freezes solid meters down. If they just burrowed in the dirt like other animals, they'd be gone. Their survival, their whole existence there, it's not about biology. It's about geology.
The ground itself. So what's the secret?
It's this massive deposit of water-worn limestone bedrock.
Okay.
Over thousands of years, water seeped in, cracked it, and carved out these deep, interconnected tunnels, basically giant air pockets underground. That's where they go. They descend into these cracks and enter a state called brumation.
Right, brumation. So that's not quite hibernation, is it? They're not fully asleep?
No, exactly. Their metabolism just slows way, way down. They're sluggish, but aware. But the depth is the really critical part. They have to go deep enough to get below that frost line, below the deadly ice.
But not too deep.
Not too deep. Because if they hit the water table, they're submerged in freezing water. They drown or freeze, so they have to find this incredibly narrow sweet spot, these little air pockets perfectly sandwiched between the ice above and the water below.
Wow. So the world's biggest snake party is only possible because of some cracked rocks.
Without those specific dens, this whole phenomenon wouldn't exist. But then May hits, they emerge, and the game changes completely. From pure survival to frantic reproduction.
And this is where it gets really chaotic. They come out, they're starving, and boom, mating rituals start instantly. You see these famous mating balls forming right on the surface.
The visual is intense, and it's all driven by this really huge sex imbalance. For every single female, you could have 10, maybe even 100 males all trying to mate with her.
That must be exhausting for the females. I mean, they've just spent months conserving every last bit of energy, and now they're just mobbed. They probably just want to get away and eat.
They're desperate to. The whole thing is a massive energy drain on them. The older, bigger females, they're the most fertile, so they attract the most males. But all that time spent in a mating ball is time they're not in the marshes hunting.
Does it actually hurt their survival chances?
Yeah.
It seems like a bad strategy if your most valuable resource, the females, are being run ragged.
It absolutely does, and it's even worse for the young ones. We see young females under 3 years old who aren't even fertile yet, but they still get harassed and basically kidnapped by groups of males. So their first chance to go get food is delayed, sometimes fatally, and they can't even reproduce yet. It's just brutal.
And the males, they've developed some pretty incredible tactics to get an itch. There were 2 things that stood out. First, they have 2 penises, right? The hemipenes.
Yes, which is common in reptiles. But it's the second adaptation that's truly devious. It's a kind of sexual mimicry. Some males actually secrete skin oils with female pheromones. They smell like a female.
Wait, so they make themselves a target for all the other males. That sounds like the worst possible idea.
But that's the genius of it. When these mimic males emerge, they get swarmed by rivals, but they don't fight back. They just lead this whole tangled mass of competitors away from the real females. It's a distraction. They waste everyone else's time and energy, then they circle back.
That is next level chemical warfare.
For a long time, we just thought, okay, it's mimicry. But now some studies are asking, well, is it? Or did the other males just evolve not to have the pheromones to avoid getting chased?
A real chicken or the egg situation.
It is. But either way, it shows how extreme the pressure is.
And speaking of extreme, once the mating chaos is over, they have to eat. Which brings us to their diet.
In Manitoba, they're mostly going for amphibians in the marshes. But the garter snake genus, especially on the West Coast, has one of the most incredible dietary tricks in the animal kingdom.
We were talking about the rough-skinned newt.
I am. This newt produces an incredibly potent neurotoxin. It's called tetrodotoxin.
The same poison as in pufferfish, the stuff that's famously dangerous.
Exactly the same. In some newt populations, there's enough poison in one animal to kill 10 to 20 humans, and the garter snake is basically the only thing that can eat them and live. They build up a resistance.
So they're not totally immune, it still affects them.
Oh, definitely. After they eat one, they get really cold and lethargic. They have to just sit there and slowly digest this toxic meal. But here's the twist, the payoff. They keep some of that toxin in their own body tissues.
So the predator becomes poisonous.
Precisely. They co-opt the newt's defense for themselves, which is a huge deal when you have so many predators around, like at Narcisse. Crows, owls, even big frogs. If a crow tries to eat a snake that's just had a newt for lunch, it might be the last meal that crow ever has.
I read something of the predator's behavior being weird, too. Like birds will often just eat the snake's liver. Why just the liver?
The liver is the most energy-dense part of the snake. It's full of fat and protein. So crows, being smart opportunists, they go right for the highest calorie prize. It's efficient, get the most energy for the least amount of work, and maybe avoid some of the toxins stored elsewhere.
So with all these threats, what about their own defense? I know there's this myth that they don't have venom.
Yeah, that's an old myth. They do have venom. It's just very weak. It's delivered from teeth in the back of their mouth, not fangs. For a person, it might just cause some minor swelling or irritation. But for a frog or a slug, it helps subdue them.
So they've got a weak bite, and they're sprinters, but they tire out fast. It seems like they should have been wiped out ages ago.
You'd think so. But their real superpower is reproduction. They're just incredibly good at it. Most reptiles lay eggs, but garter snakes give birth to live young. They're viviparous.
So the mother protects the babies for longer.
Right. And she doesn't hold back. A single mature female can have up to 40 babies at once.
40. Wow. Okay, that's how they do it. Sheer numbers to counteract the massive losses.
It's the only way. And that brings us right back to Narcisse and the conservation problems they faced. Because with that low female-to-male ratio, every single female is critical. So when the population crashed in 1999, it was a huge deal.
What happened? What caused that crash?
It was a perfect storm, really. Some really bad weather years played a part, but the human factors were the biggest problem. Habitat destruction from limestone mining, for one. And pesticide poisoning, they'd eat poisoned slugs and amphibians.
But the big one, the one I remember hearing about, was just the road.
The road was devastating. It ran right across their migration path between the dens and the marshes. In some years, records show over 10,000 snakes were killed by cars. 10,000.
That's just an unsustainable number.
Completely.
But the response to that is such a great conservation story.
It really is. They built these small tunnels, like little underpasses that go right under the highway.
Simple, but effective.
Incredibly effective. The number of snakes killed by cars dropped from 10,000 a year to less than 1,000. A massive success. And now the whole area is protected.
It's an amazing turnaround. So when you pull it all together, you get this picture of a surprisingly complex animal, surviving these Arctic winters because of geology, using chemical deception to mate, and eating one of the world's most toxic animals to make themselves toxic.
Absolutely. And so what does it all mean? The Narcisse dens aren't just about quantity. It's not just a big number. It's a living example of how a very specific geological feature, that cracked limestone, can be the single anchor point for the survival and adaptation of an entire species against all odds. Without that rock, they're not there.
It's where biology and geology become one story. Which leaves me with a final thought for you to chew on. We know some garter snakes can hold on to that tetrodotoxin.
Yeah.
We know the males use pheromones to deceive each other. So how might the chemical defense system of a female who is so valuable and so pursued differ after she survived the mating season and started eating those toxic newts? Could her own chemical profile change to give her an extra layer of defense against all that harassment? Something to think about.